meeting, and I appreciate you guys continuing to come and keep the conversation going with us. This is obviously we'll have a series of these with a little bit more information offered on each time, but Bryce, how you doing? Please come in. This one's specific to the City Hall proposal that we'll have on the ballot in November. So what we're trying to do today is kind of give a little bit of an overview on the current conditions. I think a lot of people are kind of surprised to find what condition their City Hall is in. Those of us that work here each day know about it. Those of us with some history in this building probably have known about these issues for quite a while. But for most people's perspective, you come in, pay a bill, you walk back out. You know, you miss a lot of the things that, let's say, the writing's on the wall, but it's actually not writing, it's cracks and wires and things like that. So talk about some of the components on how we plan to solve the issues that you'll see this evening, and then look at the costs, the funding strategy, and my favorite part, answering questions. Quick little presentation today. I'm going to kind of outline the scope of what we're talking about, but really we intend all of these things to be driven by the questions themselves. So if anything that comes up, anybody that has a question throughout the evening, if we can't answer it tonight, there's blue paper. Rest assured, 15,000 Berkley residents. If you're thinking about a question, there's a couple hundred people thinking the same question. So please make sure you ask it. Say if we don't, please come in. So if we don't have the answer for it tonight, we can start to update it through our frequently asked questions document. Anybody that hasn't already come in or hasn't already grabbed something off the table here, we are compiling. We got a couple dozen questions that started to roll in, and it's becoming pretty clear kind of what the more frequent ones are, and I think we do a good job of addressing a lot of these in this document. So it's don't like to see anybody leave empty-handed, and so it's a little parting gift for you. And those things will be continuing to develop on the city's website. So everybody that has a chance to go take a look at those. So I'll be the one talking, but the screen is really the star of the show. I'm going to try to kind of stand off to the side, just sort of narrate the slides as we go along. As I said, this is the first of our first set of meetings. This one's City Hall. Your next one, I'm going to start pitching the next one. The next one we'll be talking about the proposed recreation or community center, and then we'll be having one in May about the city's infrastructure. Screw, how you doing? And then we'll take a couple months off, and then we'll publish our fall schedule, and we'll do this all over again, leading up to the November ballot question. So, kind of a recap of the fall dates too. So, kind of mark your calendars. We'll have more information about these as it becomes available, but we want to get through the fun of this evening first. So let's get into the fun itself then. So the building conditions. For those of you that aren't aware, this is actually three separate buildings. You're sitting in an addition that was built in around the 1960s or so. But the first building to occupy this area, especially that way, right on Coolidge, is the old historic Village Hall, built in the 20s. And it's been the city offices. It was the village offices before it was that. It's been the bunkhouse for the fire department. It's been a number of different things, but it's tried and true, and it's been proudly on Coolidge for nearly 100 years. The part you're sitting in now was an addition in the 1960s. That became the new City Hall, and then through those double doors there is actually the district court, which was a carport. Those are now we'll get into this in a little bit. It was a carport that they enclosed to be the court building, for a little bit until they can get a good one built. And that stood all the way up until a couple years ago when they finally moved out, consolidated in Royal Oak. So the historic part first. As I said, it's a 90-year-old building in there. It is probably one of the better, stronger buildings, certainly of the three that we have here, but great bones. So the first floor currently has a maze of different offices. The largest space right now is dedicated to the Historic Museum. Wonderful place, open tonight for anybody who's interested in it. Give a plug. Open, and Mr. Tong is going to be in there, and Ms. Anson's going to be in there as well. But so we have information technology, communications, two tiny little offices. So after we're done tonight, we'll take a walk through, a guided walk, because you'll get lost in the maze back there. But you can see just how small those offices are, and we'll all poke fun at Stan for how messy his is. The second floor, right now, because nobody can really get to it, it's mostly vacant. It's basically where files have gone to die. for the last 50 years or so. We will try to take a walk through there tonight. There are lights, but we mostly depend on the sunlight for that. It's a very steep stair, so if anybody doesn't feel like they want to go up stairs that they don't feel comfortable with, fully understood. As I said, great solid building blocks, but not at all ADA compliant. If you have any sort of mobility issues, the stairs are definitely problematic. They need a way to get up there that doesn't involve climbing them, unfortunately. Exterior walls, brick's in very good condition, just need some trim repairs, that's about it. The electrical mechanical systems, as you can imagine, don't really function all that well. I was surprised when the lights turned on today. So let's all hope that they're still lit by the time we get to it this evening. The way it was, it's been a couple of different configurations, but if you think this room is small for city council meetings, I can only imagine what it was like in the 20s when they were trying to cram. They basically, it's council night, move all the desks out of the way, let's lay out a couple of tables and let's have our meeting. So, so you see how we used to use that building. As I said, stairs not in great condition. The electrical systems don't function. There is absolutely no fire suppression in there whatsoever. So it's impressive that it's made it this long. But the fire department needs to be in there, so I guess they felt pretty good about it. As you can see, it's basically where we have put things we don't have any other space for 30 years. What you're seeing there, impressively enough, is actually the current status. It was, over the last summer or so, our finance department and our clerk's office have been going through files and getting them up to shred. It was far worse than that just a couple months ago. And to their credit, they have gone through a lot of musty, dusty old boxes to find things that are several decades past our records retention requirements. You'll see that's the product, some of their work, empty shelves now as opposed to years and years of other work. That's what the whole building used to look like, just stacks, things like that. But you can see it's solid. There's no kitchenette up there for those that aren't going to travel. They eventually decided it was too small. There were better uses for it. They gave the whole building over to the then fire department, and then the city offices moved into the single-story expansion here. It was built in the 1960s, very much an ode to early modern mid-century design. I've heard there's a famous architect that designed it, but I don't know anything about that. Not my cup of tea. But so we got an extra story built on, about 7,500 square feet addition. Obviously, the administrative offices are in here, but the building is aging, isn't aging well. You'll see the exterior, decent condition for its age, but if you go around and take really good care of it, or a really good look at it, especially on the old court side, you'll see where it's starting to peel up. But the insulation is absolutely inefficient in this building. If you go into my office in the summer, it feels like you're outside in the summer. If you go in there during the winter, I'm a human polar bear. I like it, but it's like 60 degrees in my office in the winter. And this is kind of the conditions that people work in. Our mechanical systems are functional. Our electrical systems are functional, very inefficient. We're most worried about our mechanical systems. Our heating and cooling systems, we feel it's just on the verge of going. But I've been reluctant to really do anything with it, not knowing kind of what the future looked like. So we limp along and we hope we don't have some sort of emergency. One thing that's not is not structural, but when you walk in, it's not exactly an inviting feel to just be looking down a dark cinder block hallway, especially if the council chambers are closed that day. So people that are new to the building, not even sure if they've walked in the right area. There's nothing that tells you, hi, welcome to City Hall. There's nothing that tells you where you want to do your business, whether you need finance. The doors are locked. It says employees only right there. So you got to go in a long, dark hallway because this was not intended to be the original primary entrance for people. So a better way to address our residents, a better way to have the user's experience is one of the things that we think we could really improve here. Another thing, anybody familiar with the board of review or anything? We just had this board review. Board reviews are a busy time. People come in, they talk about their assessments and where they'd like to see it changed. We tend to get people to queue up. There's nowhere for people to queue up in this building. Who votes in this building? Who's been through that snake of a line that goes all the way up and kind of maybe sometimes goes outside? It's terrible. There's no natural waiting space. There's no area where people can go and wait to be the next in line that's comfortable, that doesn't make them feel like they're a burden in their own city hall, which is crazy. The second picture you'll see actually makes that hallway look wider than it is. Those that come on the tour in a little bit, this is on the first floor, get a sense for, try to walk 2 by 2 and see how well that works down this hallway. We had for a while we had an employee that was utilizing a scooter to get around due to a leg injury, and watching them try to navigate that maze was just, you felt bad for them, and this was their everyday working space. It was very unfortunate. The break room, not a lot of people, that may not be a huge issue for a lot of people, but very cramped, very small, as is our copy space, our storage areas, for the everyday things that an office needs to function. This is what I was referencing earlier, the cladding around the building. The wood trim is breaking down, coming apart. It's lost all outside edge. And that's not just like we've been neglecting our maintenance. That what you're seeing there, and then the next area, that's on the old court building. So obviously that's not something we put a lot of time into, not a lot of maintenance resources into.
Excuse me, Nat.
Yes.
That's right outside City Hall. Those two pictures.
Okay.
Literally.
So, the court doesn't look much better. So the Teflon coating, it's starting to peel up as well. So we're losing that ability to weatherize. Anybody that, if it's raining one day, somebody wants to stop by and talk to the finance director, make sure you got your galoshes on, because the water just runs right into the finance director's office during those times. The district court building, this is bad to worse. It's really just not salvageable. It's built in '73 as a carport. Like I said, it was going to be a couple of years, then we'll build a proper court building, and then we'll be out of here, and maybe we'll go back to being a carport. Things being what they were, that never happened, and the court operated out of there until 2015. I won't ask how many people had to go to court, but anybody that's been in there knows it's in terrible, poor condition. Water pours in just as fast as it pours out of the sky. Like I said, insufficient insulation, mechanical systems past useful life. It becomes a little bit of a broken record here of some of the problems that we have in this building. Our intent is to demolish that area. The only reason why we have not already demolished it is if we do get to the point where we're funding a renovation, we'll shift. There's a good possibility we'll shift uses over to there temporarily while whatever section is being worked on, so that you, as the resident, the user of the building, you don't have to go search somewhere else to find out where the city's operating for some period of time. At least we're right here on campus for you. More of the same. Bad, breaking, the outside is just breaking down. Anybody who's taking a walk around the building, like I say, you'll see it, especially more as the snow's melting and it's become more visible. So specific to the renovation plan that we're talking about tonight, a good place to start would be what have we done so far. Lord X Sargent, the architects are represented here tonight. So we've been going through that, working with staff to find out what some of our goals were, how do we reorganize the place in a manner that's productive for workflow. We've done soil borings. The next step is, of course, asking the residents to fund a renovation. And you see some of the goals here. Here's what do we plan to do with the money that we're asking for? Preserve the best features of the historic City Hall and the newer part for 1960s building. We'll bring new life to the historic hall. We'll be able to activate both lower and upper floors and make sure we can utilize that space. We'll eliminate the energy efficiencies, so we're not all funding with our tax dollars energy that's just flying right out either through the glass or through the doors themselves. We're estimating we'll see a 20 to 30% drop in savings, which just sounds like a pie-in-the-sky number, but it's upwards of $30,000 a year. That right now, that I say, as a resident that I'm helping fund, that we're all helping fund, that really is just going nowhere. And then the annual savings, you'll see there, a couple asterisks there. Renovation will also reallocate the square footage. So when you walk in, anybody ever try to pull a permit or do something with the building? You pull a permit right now, you walk over to one counter, do your business, you walk over to the other counter, do a little bit more business, and you turn around and you go back to the other counter. Everyone looks like they're crazy schizophrenic people walking back and forth all the time. But it's strangely enough, that's the way we designed it. So the flow of the building, the welcome of the building, the efficiencies that we'll gain for putting like uses near each other. You'll get that in the floor plan in just a moment. And then you as a resident, you won't come into a long dark hallway. You won't have to go through that two-counter process. You'll have a larger council chamber. We've had some very large council meetings in the last couple of years. We hope that those numbers increase, and we hope to still have that same level of engagement. And so a bigger room absolutely is warranted. Like I said, and just trying to find efficiencies. The thing I'm excited about as well is increasing the green space. We're actually shrinking with removing the court building. We're actually shrinking the overall footprint of this building. We'll be able to add green space on site. Some of those efficiencies, you see them here. We have boards that kind of lay out our vision, and when we get done here, we'll bring them out. But you'll see the color coding is probably what stands out to people the most. We divided our personnel by their departments, and we're actually able to put them near one another now, instead of these long walks to go do business with somebody who's in your department, but for whatever reason their office is nowhere near you. So there's some of the efficiencies that we're talking about. Our staff can be able to perform in a better way, and it's a better user experience for everyone. So in our city hall, this is actually the old building right now. And so what we're proposing is pushing the city hall out to Coolidge, and then, so if we're having a meeting like we are tonight, where half the room is not being used at all because that's where the council chambers are, we just divide this off, and this becomes its own multi-purpose room for large meetings and fun events. And you would come in at Rosemont into an atrium. If you need to go do your business with the city, it's a one-stop shop right there. Or it's lovely atrium, areas for displays from the museum or whatever, highlight local art, or just there's a natural queue-up spot. ADA compliant restrooms right here, breakout areas for smaller work, and then areas for the community as a whole. First floor. Second floor would be our museum. And the museum and the storage can be near each other now for the first time, because right now they're lugging stuff back and forward. Again, a nice conference room for rentals or for support our community groups. That's right there overlooking Coolidge as well. It'd be a very nice space. And then again, storage and some better, more efficient uses of the floor plans there. From the exterior, the only real difference anyone will see would be boxing in the atrium, and then that's where we'll put the staircase and the elevator that'll help you get to the second floor. So that's the blue area you see at the bottom. And the floor plan in general, or the site plan in general, you'll see we can reorganize and add some green space that's not currently there when the court's gone. And that's a work in progress. There's some more design work to be done there. The important part, the cost. So current estimates have us at $4.5 million for the renovation of this building. We'll be asking permission to levy that debt, and then for the residents, they'll end up being for the next 20 years, there'll be a millage. The millage amount will be, it's on there now, I think it's on the next slide, but just over $500,000, and that'll be assessed for the life of the bond. So for most of our residents are at about a $75,000 value, taxable value in their home or lower. For those people, it'll be about $38 a year, and over the 20 years, it'll be about $744. And then putting it in context, we're not just asking for one thing, so just talking about one thing wouldn't quite be the whole picture. So in the grand scheme of things, if you are one of those with a $75,000 house, and the average is right around there, it's $77,227. But $38 is the request for this. Community center, which will be our next meeting for those that are interested, will be about $130. And then infrastructure millage as well is about $150 annually. We get the question frequently: millage versus a bond. What's the difference? For the Berkley taxpayer, it's not much of a difference. You'll see a millage. You'll see the period of taxes annually. Either way, for our purposes, a bond allows us the immediate capitalization of the resources that we need. So we would sell the bonds. People would buy them. We would get that $4.5 million immediately, and we would be able to do the renovations versus a millage would be sort of the opposite. You would assess a millage for 15 years, slowly build up that money, and after $50 of everyone paying, or 50 or 20 years of everyone paying into that fund, we finally end up doing something. And so we think for construction purposes, the bond's the way to go.